Hey, we are back with part 2 of client results, and I'm going to share with you the number one reason that most hypnotists never get their businesses off the ground, and it has to do with client results. I'm going to go through a few different things, and then I'm going to walk you through some steps to address this issue so that you can just put it to bed and you can get focused on helping the people you've chosen to serve. But before we get there, I want you to be sure to like this video, subscribe, and in this playlist is Client Results Part 1. Be sure to watch that video and also watch the video on pricing for the transformation, or charging for the transformation. So the number one thing that impacts clients' results is a hypnotist confidence in their ability to get the result. It's interesting that as adults, when we see little children and they're learning to walk or they're learning to ride a bike, we're very encouraging and we understand that they have to learn to become very proficient. And once they start riding that bike without the training wheels, if they fall, they get hurt, we're like, it's okay. You're still learning. You're getting really good at this. It's okay if you fall down once in a while. We don't give ourselves that same grace. And people get into perfectionism. I cannot, especially when it becomes entangled with money. I cannot charge someone unless I know I can get the result. Go back and watch what I said about results. You're responsible for creating shifts and showing up 100% and doing your best. What the client does with those shifts when they're not with you is what determines whether or not they achieve their goals, their outcomes. Your job is the shift. Your job is to create the environment. Now, this doesn't mean that you can do 3 or 4 sessions and wash your hands and say, oh, I can't help you, but you can't have your money back. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Go watch Charging by the Transformation. So the first thing is confidence. The second thing that becomes an issue is people start to chase certifications. You start looking at other people. You don't have this, which only comes from doing, in building evidence in your mind that, yes, I can do this. You start chasing certifications. Now you get confused. People will take the same techniques, similar techniques. They put a different name on them. They tweak it a little bit because it's how they've incorporated into their practice. And then you begin to question what you've already learned. And what you need to do is settle in, buckle up, and start doing sessions. You are not going to charge expert prices when you are new. But if a client has not invested, practice clients, free sessions, they're not committed. There's a saying in the personal growth and development industry is that the transformation is in the transaction. Go back and watch Charging for the Transformation. You'll see what I mean with the woman who had cravings. Her transformation was in that transaction. It was her commitment. She hadn't even paid yet, but it was in her commitment to that transaction that her transformation occurred. The third thing that comes into play here is, what technique are you using? And does that technique match the problem? Okay? This is something I teach all of my students in training. It really applies to any habit, but it most easily applies to smoking, dipping, vaping, or even a glass of wine every night. Not alcoholism, a glass of wine every night. We are going to exclude food and cravings because we cannot live without buying food. We cannot live without eating. We can live without wine, beer, alcohol. We can live without cigarette, vape, dip, pot, whatever the case may be. When you have one of these people come into your world and they want to know if you can help them, you're going to explore, well, you know, what's happening when you're smoking, what's happening when you're having the glass of wine, you know, is it just, you know, is it something you do at the same time every day, or is this, you know, is it an outlet for you? Is it a stress relief? Do you feel like you can, you know, just come down off of a stressful day? Tell me what's happening. If there is any component of stress, worry, unwinding, taking a time out, you get where I'm going with this. Oh, it's only in the car on the way home from work. I can go all day without smoking. I get in the car on the way home from work and I whip out that pack of cigarettes and I'm just going at it. Then you need more directed techniques. But if someone's like, you know what, I've pretty much quit smoking, but I can't seem to get rid of the cigarette with coffee in the morning and the cigarette before I brush my teeth at night to go to bed. Those are classical conditioning. No stress, no emotion involved. Those are great options for classical hypnosis because those are classically conditioned responses. The brain has associated the cigarette to the cup of coffee. The brain has associated the cigarette to the bedtime routine before brushing teeth. It's not belief driven. It's not a reactive habit. It's not a pattern. It is a classically conditioned habit. So classical hypnosis plus repetition with audios that are geared toward them seeing themselves going through their day feeling great without it. And you have to take hypnosis training if you haven't already to know how to word script so that you're not reintroducing the problem in the script. Because when you help someone stop smoking, stop vaping, stop dipping, stop drinking wine, you don't say you don't drink wine anymore, you don't think about wine anymore, because you are reinforcing the problem when you do that. But it's going to take repetition to break a classically conditioned habit. It has to do with the reticular activating system. It's just the way it works. The easiest way is have them to create a whole new routine or habit, or to replace the cigarette, the vape, the glass of wine with something else. In that case, that matches the problem. But if you have someone who is stressed, their boss is constantly writing them from something, or they're engaged in people pleasing, and this has been a lifelong pattern, and they've reached the point in their life where I'm tired of my parents treating me like I'm still 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm 40 years old, for crying out loud. This is my life. And they've people pleased for 4 decades. That's going to take a more intensive approach. And it can be addressed a couple of different ways, but you're going to need a more directed approach. There are going to be a lot of patterns that have to be broken, a lot of entangled thought processes. When you understand that something is a repeat pattern in someone's life, when you can see that and see how it's playing out, then you're going to want techniques to match that to get the result. I have clients who sometimes have very deeply rooted self-esteem and self-worth issues. Stories, metaphors, that is like patching potholes on a dilapidated road. The first rainstorm that comes along, the first snowstorm, you know, a month or two of heavy traffic, the patches are going to pop out of those potholes, if you can even patch the potholes to begin with. Sometimes I have clients that they have done regular hypnosis, and I call it regular hypnosis. They've done classical hypnosis. They've listened to audios. And when they do it, their mind is constantly rejecting everything that's coming in. They're like, I can't stop the self-talk. It's like, yeah, right, gee, Wilbur. Sure, yeah, you're worthy. Whatever the case may be. Or their mind may be so resistant that they can't even focus in the hypnosis. They're 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes in. They start going in. The mind realizes where it's going, and it's like, oh, no, we're not going here. And it takes them out. Those people believe they cannot be hypnotized. I'm putting that note up there for me because we're going to cover that in a moment. We're going full on lesson here. This is not a short video. So, you know, if you're short on time, save this video to a playlist on your YouTube and then come back to it and finish watching it. So, when these things happen, especially if someone doesn't have a lot of experience, you can think it's you. You can think it's you. And I'm going to get into the can't be hypnotized thing. I've had multiple people who've told me that they were told they were low hypnotizables, or they reached out to me because they heard the results that I got, and they've been told by other hypnotists they could not be hypnotized. One client specifically, well, let me back that up. He did not become a client because he was expecting my fee to be $150 an hour, which was my fee back in 2013 when I started. This person also had a very complex issue that was going to take me pulling in all of my medical and healthcare knowledge to help address the problem. But this person reached out to me and he goes, I've been told I can't be hypnotized. And I said, who told you you can't be hypnotized? And he goes, well, he's actually a pretty popular stage hypnotist here in Canada. And I was like, okay, now stage hypnotists are top of their game. Top of their game. What you see in a stage hypnosis show is not what people do in session. It's not the way it works. So I told him, I know I can help the issue you're dealing with. I don't want to tell you that I can help you until we connect. And it's a free consultation. Normally they're half an hour, 45 minutes. We're going to block off an hour because if you will allow me, I would like to go through a full hypnosis pre-talk with you and actually guide you into hypnosis the way that I do it, where I can confirm objectively whether or not you're in hypnosis. I said I want to do that before I ever even tell you whether or not I can help you, because this person actually had a traumatic brain injury. So there's always the very real possibility that the person may be able to spontaneously go in and out of what we consider the hypnotic state or state of focused attention, yet not be able to be guided there. I've had it happen before with the gentleman who is in the client videos in my master pain management hypnosis program. He had a TBI, he had a stroke after a motorcycle accident, and I could guide him into hypnosis. He got great results, but I could never confirm somnambulism with him. I could get him so far, but I couldn't confirm doing the covert testing. The first thing in getting clients results is, number one, you want to be confident you can hypnotize them, and you want them to be confident they can be hypnotized. And their confidence that they can be hypnotized comes from your confidence that you can hypnotize them. So what I do is I use a rapid induction that has a covert test for somnambulism. So you may have people come to you and say, well, I've tried all these things, they've never worked. If they've ever tried hypnosis before and they felt it didn't work, I always go big gun out of the gate. big gun out of the gate. And I will do a whole video on what this is, or the principles of it. Once you know the principles, you can play with it and do whatever you want. But to do a covert test for stage 4 of hypnosis, also called somnambulism or threshold of somnambulism. When you do this and you follow it with something called a convincer, again, I'm going to do a separate video, testing versus convincers, they become hopeful in the hypnosis. Now, doing directed techniques, because there are a couple of different kinds of root cause techniques. Doing a directed root cause technique, you've got to have this, because we want the client to be able to hallucinate their past, where maybe they were smoking out of frustration, or they had a glass of wine, they knew they didn't need it, they didn't really want it, but they felt like they had to have it. We want them to be able to hallucinate that moment, which means we want them to be able to access the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that is active in memory retrieval. It's one of the many active in memory retrieval, but it's also where the beliefs are formed. And this is where we can break a belief and replace it. You know, people talk about neuroplasticity. You have this road in your mind, and now you want to go this way, so you have to build a new road until that road gets strong enough. Sometimes you may continue that way, but you still have to do this. Not with root cause. With root cause, you erase that and build a new road. Okay? This is how you know you can get client results. They're dealing with deeply seated patterns, limiting beliefs, money blocks. So money blocks can be a very light version of this. Very light version of this. Self-esteem issues, self-trust, imposter syndrome, procrastination, all of those things. Now, what that allows you to do is to systematically go through a process. Now, no hypnotist would be a hypnotist without knowing how to do classical hypnosis. If you're going to do the deeper work, that's only a tiny, tiny piece. When you learn a systematic process, I'm going to call phase 1 classical. It's classical hypnosis. It's a direct suggestion phase. But as a part of this phase 1, we're taking this and we are going to create a client, whether they believe they can or they can't. We're going to take this client and we're going to turn them into a hopeful, somnambulistic client. What makes them hopeful? We do that very specific induction. We do a covert test. Then we convince them, and in that moment they realize they're in hypnosis and hypnosis is working. Then we give them suggestions for what they came in for, and they start to believe in themselves, and they start to believe in hypnosis. Now, there's something that comes before you ever get to the actual hypnosis, and that's called the preparation. That'll be a separate video for another day. The preparation. Sometimes clients have a lot of resistance. They have a lot of fear in them, not in hypnosis. They have a lot of fear in them. This phase isn't over until we have this. It's criteria. We have criteria. Now, if your person's coming in and they are just want to break the habit of the cigarette with the coffee in the morning, then this is all you need. This is all you need. If they simply want to build the habit of running every day, and they want to build the habit of enjoying drinking water, drinking a gallon of water a day, checking in with themselves if they're really hungry or if they're thirsty. Phase 1, do your virtual session, record it. Always record your sessions. That's for another day. Always record your sessions. Record it and then send them the link and let them download the audio. Don't go record a separate audio. Don't do that. Send them the link. Let them download it directly from Zoom. Or if you want, you have Audacity and you're not really busy and you want to take the 15 minutes it takes to download it, upload it into Audacity, chop off the talking at the beginning and in the end, and throw some music, royalty-free music behind it. You can do that. Not a big deal. Then send them the audio. But when you're dealing with these deeper rooted issues, again, this is a directed approach. You move on to the next phase. And there is a method to this madness. And it sets this process apart from a lot of other processes that use the same components. But it was designed to flow the way that it flows, because you get the most lasting results this way, and you don't have to go back and repeat things. So phase 2, you're going to remove erroneous fears, beliefs, and misperceptions. I give an example in training of a client who was sent a contract for a business deal. He felt trapped. He was in analysis paralysis, which when you run a company and this is my second real CEO I worked with. When you go into another person's company, when you go into these people's companies as a contractor and you're doing things, you're making hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions a day that can impact their business. When you're in analysis paralysis, you can not only ruin their company, but your reputation in your own company. So that's what he came in for. We followed that feeling of being trapped back. The feeling of being trapped connected to a childhood event where he got stuck in a bathroom. The lock just got jammed. He was okay, but it started getting hot. It was taking them a while to get him out because they didn't have the key, so they were having to get tools and take the door stuff off, whatever they did. But just before they got him out, it got so hot, he was getting frustrated. And then he began to get scared. What are you afraid of? I might die. That's an erroneous fear and misperception. He got so hot, so miserable, it wasn't working. He exhausted his resources. He was stuck in that bathroom for a little bit. But he exhausted his resources, and that became a trauma. He hadn't thought about it in his whole life, but the exact words that the little one used was trapped, and that was the words he used when he came in. He goes, I feel trapped. We got rid of that. Now, there were a couple of other little things that came up in this process that revealed some frustration towards some people in his life around their lack of belief when he made a certain decision I'm not going to share that here. Not for public discourse. So then we went to phase 3, where we remove old useless anger. Now, most people carry around anger. You're like, I'm not an angry person. Does it irritate you? Oh, God, yeah. Do you resent that they... Oh, God, yeah. Do you wish they kept their mouth shut? Oh, yeah. It's anger. Not all anger is rage. People think of anger and they think of the things that they see on TV and in the movies and rageful people. That's not what anger looks like. Anger looks like, for some people, gratitude bypassing. Well, I should just be grateful that I have this opportunity. I may hate this job, but I should be grateful for the good money it brings. I hate this job. My boss treats me like shit and I can't stand it. But hey, got great insurance and they're paying my kids' tuition because it's a state job. I don't want to stay home with my kids. I want to pursue my career. But my mother always taught me a good mother stays home with the kids. So I put my career on hold. Now I'm having a hard time getting back in the workforce. Anger. Forgiveness is not about anger. It's about insight. The insight allows the anger to be processed subconsciously, and it's like, pouring dirty water out of a bucket. Forgiveness is the holy grail of internal peace. Then there's phase 4. This is where we remove anger itself, guilt, shame, and there's a little bit of covert parts work in here. You go in this order because if you do this, but you haven't done this, and the person you've targeted here is tied into traumas, beliefs, and fears, and you haven't neutralized these, guess what? It's still active in the subconscious mind. It's still active in the subconscious. So what's going to happen? This is going to come back. If you do this before this, it's only a pressure release. Now, there are some situations, rarely, where you have to even get to the point you can do this, you have to pressure release. And this is why I said in the video on why I rarely do parts work. This is why I rarely do parts work. When you do this, you rarely ever need it unless you're dealing with chronic pain, chronic health issues, different scenarios like that, where secondary gain is common. It doesn't mean 4 sessions. For some people, it's 10. I may do 2 or 3 of these. We may have different people that we need to address, different aspects of life. We may have different beliefs to address here. So this is how I can charge by transformation. And I know it's not going to take me forever to get there. People who aren't dealing with trauma, it's an average of 5 sessions. People who have trauma, then they've done a lot of therapy and things, it's going to take a little bit longer. But there is another piece to getting client results. And that is how you schedule your sessions. Now, you can also do conversational hypnosis. That's something for another day. I am a huge advocate of this emotional processing, because if you help someone get rid of old useless anger that's underneath the surface, you have literally transformed their physical health. Even if they're not currently having health problems, you have physically shifted the trajectory of their health in their life. There's actual research that shows that old anger that's been pushed down. You know, people say forgive and forget, and people think that because they don't think about it, they've done it right. Yeah, no. I've had people who've done 11 years of anger management. At first, they're like, no, I've done all this. I said, trust me, you haven't done it my way. Just humor me. Humor me. Go with me. We cracked that door. We accomplished more in 2 hours than they did in 11 years of anger management, because it didn't get to the root that was creating the anger. So when you do sessions like this, you have to be in the driver's seat. If you want your clients to get results and you are doing directed work, you have to be in the driver's seat of scheduling these sessions. It's a must, because the longer that they go between sessions, you lose momentum. They quickly forget the shifts that they got. I will do one session week 1, and then I do 2 sessions week 2. And that's so I get through the heavy lifting of the limiting beliefs, the fears. I get through that in 1 week. 2 sessions. And then we move to the other sessions, and I always aim to keep them not more than 7 days apart, until we've gotten to a point that I know we can take a break. Because that phase 2, we may have to repeat that a few times, not because it didn't work, but because there are multiple layers of beliefs. But I have a client right now, it's been 2-3 weeks since our last session, but we had 2.5 weeks back to back, where over 3 sessions and some boxer coaching, and it was 4 sessions, but over the 3, when we met for the 4th one, we had flipped the table. She was done. So now we're just doing we've got 1 session left. I think that's all that's going to be needed to wrap up the shame, guilt, because people will end up frustrated. I can't believe it took me this long to realize that it was this thing in my way. And they get into a little self-resentment. I want to clear that out. We don't want anything left. So client results is based on the technique you use, how you implement that technique, and if that technique is the right fit for the client. I hope you found this video helpful. Drop your questions below. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And if you're getting in the mode of actually starting your business, I actually have a PDF called The 6 Essentials of a Sustained, Profitable, and Aligned Business. Because when I got started in business, people were telling me about this thing and that thing and this thing, and nobody showed me the whole picture of how these things work together and how all of these pieces working together, if you start from the beginning, very gently building the foundation of the house, you can have a very profitable business. You have the pieces in place so that if you ever want to scale that business up, your business model can support that. And if you don't, that's okay too. It just means your clients and you have a great experience in your business. I'll see you in the next video.